Hello and welcome. My name is Ashton Rigsby and I would like to introduce you to my fellow teammates Charlene Bullock, Jessica Bryson, and Pamela Horton. Today we'll be discussing the topic of social innovation. What is social innovation? It focuses on the process of creating and implementing solutions to complex issues in support of social progress. New ideas that meet unmet needs. Ideas that are effective, that bring value to society, that are more sustainable, that are more efficient, and that create solutions. In order for you to understand the idea of social innovation a little bit better, I would like to show you this diagram. We start off with a social problem. In order to fix that problem, we bring new human networks together. In order to generate a new idea, we need people working together. From there, a transformation happens. That transformation creates a new, innovative product or service, and then the problem is solved. Examples of social innovation. Charter schools. By operating with less regulations than those placed on public schools, parents, administrators, and teachers are able to innovate new teaching methods. Emissions trading. It's an incentive-based program that encourages and rewards participating businesses to reduce the amount of emissions they emit. Fair trade, establishing a high trade standard on certain goods. Some include sugar, coffee, and chocolate. By doing so, it ensures traders pay producers a fair wage. Social innovation in healthcare. In the healthcare system, the innovative use of technology continues to change how well healthcare is delivered. It's not sophisticated technology, but rather the new ways in which technology is used that enhance quality of healthcare the most. For example, virtual reality to increase lay bystander CPR, wireless pulse oximetry monitoring for patients on opioids, and telemedicine intensive care units. Social innovation in community development. Strengthening a society by meeting social, economical, and environmental needs by understanding problems and prioritizing actions and solutions in the community. This is done by giving people opportunities to grow and develop skills, and having organizations and programs available for those who are disadvantaged or excluded, with the focus of caring for all members in the community, providing a safe environment, and giving everyone the opportunity to participate in decisions that will affect them. Of course, this is in order for community members to have hope for the future, community members to experience respect and fair treatment, and for community members to feel welcome to be theirself. Of course, we all want a healthy community. In order to do so, we need to start with the purpose of a strengthened community, one that's livable, sustainable, and equitable. We need to have a focus of quality of community life, a community that's working, caring, safe, creative, and for the citizens. We need to do that through our methods, the methods of capacity building, learning, and engagement, through personal development, positive action, community organization, participation, and involvement.
As you can see, the scope of social innovation is immense. For that reason, we chose to focus on what we feel is at the core of society and progress. Nelson Mandela said, "Education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world." Over the next 3 sections, we will cover the quality of poverty and social innovation in early childcare, innovation in special education with a focus on autism spectrum disorder, and the public charter school.
My name is Charlene Bullock, and I will be discussing the quality of poverty and social innovation centered around early child care. I'll start by discussing Head Start. Head Start was founded in 1965. Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty of '65 was created to fight the 19% poverty rate. Head Start was created to provide low-income families with comprehensive early childhood education, health, nutrition, and parent involvement services. Head Start started as an 8-week program and progressed into a full day year service. Today, Head Start has been discussed intently on its quality and effectiveness to children in low-income families, which was why the DRS was created. It is an accountability system that determines whether Head Start grantees are delivering high quality and comprehensive services. The DRS not only makes sure that the quality of care is appropriate, but also implements a competitive grant-making process in communities where quality levels aren't being met. Next, I will be discussing preschool and poverty. Head Start was the first publicly funded preschool program. There are now federal and state programs that assist low-income families. Parents also now have a choice between federal, state, government, or nonprofit programs. Federal programs usually include Early Head Start, or Smart Start. State programs include pre-kindergarten, pre-K, or public school pre-K programs. Government programs are government funded for like special educations and other like for special needs children. Profit or nonprofit programs are like daycare centers or home daycares. The future is preschool. Quality matters. Pre-K children were already 6 months behind the national average, with some 5 and 6-year-old children scoring as far as 3 years behind. The children scored on average 9 points below the national means for their individual ages. These are children who weren't in any type of preschool. To transform daycare environments into high-quality preschools by grounding teachers and their assistants in the best practices for effective literacy structure. The CLI has proven that it's possible to elevate literacy instruction and student vocabulary growth in pre-K. As a nation, we must improve our pre-K options to give the youngest children their best chance for a lifetime of reading, writing, learning, and success. Education and innovation. 3 studies examined the relationship between cost and quality using state-specific data that found that costs were 13 to 27% higher in centers of higher quality than in centers of lower quality. Using state-level data, estimated that states that provided high-quality preschool have costs that are 5 to 7% higher than the average state. The Cost, Quality, and Child Outcomes study found that on average, a 1-point difference in quality scores on a 7-point scale, as measured by the environmental rating scales, was associated with a 10% difference in a center's total variable cost. Fast facts. In 2016, 42% of 3-year-olds, 66% of 4-year-olds, and 86% of 5-year-olds were enrolled in preliminary programs, which were not measurably different from the percentages enrolled in 2000. In 2016, the percentages of children enrolled in preliminary programs was higher for 5-year-olds than 4-year-olds, and 4-year-olds for 3-year-olds. Among 3 to 5-year-olds who were enrolled in preschool programs in 2016, some 54% attended full-day programs, which was higher than the percentage who attended full-day programs in 2000, which was 47%. Among 3 to 5-year-olds attending kindergarten, the percentage attending full-day programs increased to 60%, from 60% in 2000 to 81% in 2016. And every year from 2000 to 2016, the percentage of 3 to 5-year-olds kindergarten students enrolled in full-day programs was higher than the percentage of 3 to 5-year-old preschool students enrolled in full-day programs. Moving into the future, preschool is going to become more important for the development of a child. The physical, social, and emotional skills that are learned during this time in a child's life is so important. As our society progresses, so will the need to be smarter, faster, and efficient will push people to have more education sooner in life, which will mean more quality teachers to lead those children into the future.
Hello, everyone. We are now going to transition to social innovation in special education with a main focus on autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. Simply stated, autism spectrum disorder is a complex developmental disability. Signs typically appear during early childhood and affect a person's ability to communicate and interact with others. ASD does not present itself the same in each person diagnosed. That is why it is referred to as a spectrum. Here is an abbreviated timeline for discovery, acceptance, and increasing occurrence of ASD. I'll let you take a look at that for a second or two. You will see that medical and social thoughts about ASD have evolved. We'll look at that process and how social innovation in education will continue to evolve in the future. My mother often mentions that in her day, the 50s, the severely disabled were sent to a different school than the typical children. Those who were able to attend public school but could not manage to make good grades stopped attending after the 8th grade and went to work. It was not until 1975 that the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act was approved. This law states that all schools must provide a free and appropriate education for all disabled children. Applied behavioral analysis, ABA, is a type of therapy that focuses on improving specific behaviors. Studies have shown that ABA therapy is the best way to work with children on the lower end of the spectrum. By doing so, the need for special services decreased. ABA therapy is typically offered outside of the public school system. This therapy is very expensive. A private school can be upwards of $35,000 a year. Sometimes this cost will be covered by insurance, but each state is different in the mandated amounts, if any, insurance must cover for autism-related services like ABA. In this situation, it is the middle class that struggles. They make too much for Medicaid and too little to pay out of pocket, so their special needs child must attend public school. Unfortunately, this is not always the best scenario for the child. Often, if a parent wants individualized ABA therapy for their child, with the school paying for it, they must fight to prove the public school cannot meet the student's needs. That could mean more out-of-pocket money from the family for a lawyer. The Roanoke County, Virginia School District has set the bar high for a new standard in public special education. They offer an ABA therapy class with one adult working with one child in their public school setting. That makes it free of charge for the parents. Dr. Stephanie Seneff of MIT claims that 1/2 of all U.S. children will be on the autism spectrum disorder, on the spectrum, by the year 2025. We need to look to the future of educating these children to be as self-sufficient as possible. How can we do that? In some cases, the child will become an adult who will need to be constantly monitored. Families need to step up here. Exceptionally is one of a few companies at the forefront of special education information. These companies are advocates for the parents. They have information on each state and its laws, resources, and options for the child's best education plan. Look for more of these companies to become available as increased needs will demand. Neurodiversity was originally coined in 1988 by Judy Singer. While the term is around today, putting it into action could be the wave of the future for some. The Oxford Dictionary defines neurodiversity as the range of differences in individual brain function and behavioral traits regarded as part of normal variation in the human population. It's used especially in context of autism spectrum disorders. Look for companies to embrace the idea of neurodiversity as society calls for more employment opportunities for the growing number of adults with ASD entering the workforce. One company, SAP, has announced an intention to make 1% of its workforce neurodiverse by 2020. The government will educate a special needs student until the age of 22. Then what? Johnny W. Collette has stated that the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services will partner with parents and families, individuals with disabilities, anyone and everyone who is focused on raising expectations and improving outcomes for individuals with disabilities. The Federal Partners in Transition Work Group has published the 2020 Federal Youth Transition Plan, which proposes strategies that collaborate with the statement made by Mr. Collette. There are people in decision-making roles who see that there is a greater chance for some differently abled children to achieve independence as they become adults if they have the proper education. We, the taxpayer, can pay for improved services through public schools, or we can pay through Social Security to care for the adults who never had the opportunity to learn to become self-sufficient. It is a wiser decision to bring alternative education programs into our public schools for special education students as part of their right to a free and appropriate education. Let's give those who are differently abled their best chance at success. Margaret Mead says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has."
My name is Jessica Bryson. When speaking about the innovations in education, it would be a disservice not to touch on the rise of the public charter school. What is a charter school? Often referred to as a school of choice, a charter school is a non-traditional, tuition-free school of choice that is publicly funded but independently run. Charter schools were conceived as a means to loosen the red tape around public schools and free up educators to innovate. Charters have since grown into a national movement that spans 44 states, plus the District of Columbia, and includes around 7,000 schools and 3 million students. While public charter schools are met with mixed reviews, both positive and negative, I will focus predominantly on the positive outcome and the potential positive outcomes associated with the charter school model. Allow me to break it down a bit further. In charter schools, an appraisal challenge by Richard E. Poulton and Joseph Portelli, the basic principles that govern the charter is a bargain between autonomy and accountability. Charter schools can receive exemptions from most state codes and district rules regarding curriculum, instruction, and budget to allow the flexibility to innovate. Charters are typically granted for a period of 3 to 5 years by the granting entity and may or may not be renewed at the end of their contract. Because of their autonomy, a blanket definition is a little difficult. However, charter schools in most states share these similar parts. First, they are free to attend. Second, they are publicly funded. Third, they are part of the state school system. Fourth, they are accountable to public bodies for their results. Fifth, they do not enroll students based off of where they live. And sixth, they are privately managed. Now, to best understand where charter schools are today, we must first review the seeds planted in history. Origin is traced back to 1955 when Milton Friedman, author of Capitalism and Freedom, pioneered the idea of the voucher program. Vouchers allowed educational funds to follow the student. By 1974, Ray Budd, a World War II vet and education professor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, proposed that states grant charters to create experimental programs and departments in existing public schools. Now, this idea was similar to a think tank within the schools, where basically they used their current structure, where ideas would be tested, experimented with, and then later introduced throughout the rest of the school. When Ray Budd first presented his idea, there was little interest because many didn't feel it was an area that was failing until the Reagan administration's 1983 report, A Nation at Risk, the Imperative for Education Reform, was released, warning of a rising tide of mediocrity. By 1988, Albert Shanker pushed Ray Budd's idea and was the first major supporter of the charter school movement. By 1991, Minnesota passed the first charter school law, and they were quickly followed by California in 1992. By 1993, 6 other states had followed suit. By 2015, 44 states had passed charter school laws. Every truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as being self-evident. Arthur Schopenhauer. By the end of 2018, over 7,000 charter schools are in operation. Nearly 3.2 million students are in attendance. National enrollment increased by more than 150,000 between the fall of 2016 and 17. That's a 5% increase. This growth demonstrates continued parent demand for charter schools and innovative, high-quality public school options. However, parent demand for charter schools continues to exceed supply. What makes a charter school successful? In the article, Common Traits of Successful Charter Schools, Renee Stetson lists high expectations such as parent-teacher-student contracts that create more disciplined learning environments and can strengthen the homeschool partnerships. Basically, it's agreed upon expectations. Extended learning times and flexibility to the schedule. Schedules can be structured around the community's needs. Innovative curriculum and instructional techniques that result in increased, active, engaged learning environments. Intensive teacher training. This includes coaching and a recognition for results. Strong, supportive, and immediately responsive school leadership is also extremely important. One way to achieve these positive traits is through a CMO, or a charter management organization. Charter management organizations, or CMOs, are nonprofit entities that manage 2 or more charter schools and in most cases achieve above average academics. They place a heavy focus on teacher training and have high expectations for appropriate behavior by both students and the school leaders. According to the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools, these organizations have played a large role in the scalability of public charter schools by enabling the replication of models that work, creating economies of scale, encouraging collaboration between similar schools, and building support structures within the schools. Currently, charter schools and traditional public schools serve similar percentages of students who qualify for free or reduced lunch, roughly around 50%. However, in 2015 to 2016, there were nearly 25,000 specialists and data coaches employed by public schools in the U.S., and about 12% of those were employed by charter schools, even though charter schools only account for 6% of the public schools. Charter schools have fully embraced that there is no one-size-fits-all strategy and are staffing up to meet the needs of their students. While it's not always acknowledged, many of the innovations and improvements district schools have adopted have come from successful charter schools. My personal favorite is behavior education and awareness, such as The Leader in Me, a school-based program based on the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People by Stephen Covey. Character education is an education movement that supports the social, emotional, and ethical development of students and provides long-term solutions to real-world problems. PBIS, or Positive Behavior Interventions and Support, is taught similar to any other subject and encourages and rewards good behavior. So what do charter schools look like in the future? In the 2016 article, Charter Accountability for District-Run Schools, Andy Smerrick gives credit for the success of well-performing charter schools on the accountability that comes with a performance contract. He says, and I quote, "No state government, no matter how able, is able to fully understand the complexities of hundreds of thousands of schools and their continuously changing communities and students." He suggests that in the future, charter accountability should be applied to all district schools. This would require every school and operator to be a function of its performance. Smerrick also points out, if all schools operate under charter accountability, the removal of operational rules frees professionals to continuously innovate, problem solve, and course correct, which fuels their sense of agency. When families exercise the ability of choice instead of district assignment, it empowers the community and challenges the district monopoly. If district-run schools persistently fail, or if the district as a whole persistently fails, they can be replaced because there are now other options available to students. Neither the district nor any of its schools needs to have a privileged place in the education landscape. They can be judged just as charters are by their performance. Following Hurricane Katrina in 2005, this model, the model of charter accountability, went into play. The state of Louisiana took the majority of the city's public schools and turned them over to nonprofit organizations. Schools received funding based on the number of students they attracted. Because so many students moved away, data was only collected on those who returned. Data was collected between the years of 2001 and 2014, and the impact of this particular reform was wildly impressive. Test scores went up to the 66th percentile, high school graduation was up 3 to 9%, college entry rate went up 8 to 15%, and college graduation was up 3 to 5%. By 2020, New Orleans will have the nation's first school district composed entirely of charter schools. IDEA, a charter management organization, prepares students from underserved communities for success in college and citizenship. Currently, they have 79 schools in operation. By 2020, they hope to add 9 additional charter school campuses. By 2022, 173 schools that span over 5 regions and 100,000 students in attendance. 26 of those schools will be in the Austin, Texas area and serving 20,000 students. The ultimate goal by 2028 would be to have 250,000 students in attendance. This goal would be comparable with some of the country's largest school districts. While these stats and projections are specific to IDEA, many other CMOs and communities are making plans to open more charter schools and continue this path of education despite the negative feedback that is sometimes shared. Education is at the core of social innovation, and regardless of your feelings of the charter school movement, you can't deny that it's definitely shaken up our education system for the better. Please feel free to use the following suggested reading resources to further your education on some of the topics that we've talked about today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to listen to our presentation.